On January 13th, 1999, Jefferson High School woke up like it always did. Teenagers spilled through the doors with backpacks, slung low, and laughter too loud for the hour. Lockers clanged like percussion in a careless orchestra. Teachers called out names that blurred into noise. Among them walked Emily Carter, 17, bright-eyed, responsible, the kind of girl who wrote reminders in the margins of her notebooks and called her parents when she was running late, even by 5 minutes. She had plans that afternoon, a pickup to make, a place to be, a future waiting impatiently ahead of her. By sunset, she was gone. No goodbye, no final message, only absence. At first, everyone assumed something simple. A dead phone, a forgotten errand, a teenage rebellion that would burn out by morning. But morning came, and Emily didn't. Her car surfaced weeks later behind a row of abandoned shops, unlocked, untouched, unervingly ordinary. It was as if she had simply stepped out and never returned. The city leaned in closer. Then, in the frozen dirt of Lincoln Park, they found her, buried shallow, as if whoever left her there had been in a hurry, or afraid. The earth had barely closed over her. The forest did not hide her. It whispered. When panic spreads, people demand order, and order requires a villain. Police turned their attention to the one person whose name already carried emotional weight. Michael Reed, her ex-boyfriend, quiet, well-mannered, a student who raised his hand in class and lowered his eyes when spoken to. The kind of boy teachers described as promising. But now, his past with Emily, their arguments, their breakup, their teenage emotions, were suddenly sharpened into motive. Love became jealousy. Jealousy became rage. Rage became murder. The transformation was swift and frighteningly convenient. There was no blood on Michael's clothes. No DNA beneath Emily's fingernails. No witness who saw her die. Only fragments. Phone records that hinted rather than spoke. Timelines stretched thin like fragile thread. And a single voice tying it all together. Jason Miller, a friend who claimed he helped bury Emily's body. But Jason's story was never stable. It shifted in shape and color, changing with each telling, each interview, each new detail police already believed to be true. Sometimes the burial happened at dusk. Sometimes at midnight. Sometimes he remembered everything. Sometimes nothing. Yet his word became the backbone of the case. A spine built from whispers. In court, stories are not weighed by truth. They are weighed by how believable they sound. Prosecutors painted Michael as a boy scorned, cold and calculated beneath a polite exterior. Defense attorneys spoke of holes, inconsistencies, missing evidence. But juries are human, and humans fear uncertainty more than they fear mistakes. Michael Reed was convicted. Life in prison. No scream, no collapse, just a quiet blink, as if his mind rejected what his ears had heard. Like a dream, turning into a nightmare too slowly to escape. Prison does not move in years. It moves in echoes, metal doors, footsteps, silence. Michael aged in a place where time is a punishment of its own. His youth drained not in moments, but in endless repetition. Outside, the world moved on. Inside, he stayed frozen on the day everything ended. 14 years later, the silence cracked. A journalist named Rachel Brooks released a podcast called Second Chance. She did not shout accusations. She asked questions. She replayed calls, measured drives, timed routes, and slowly, something unbearable emerged. There may not have been enough time. The window between when Emily was last seen alive and when prosecutors claimed she was dead was barely wide enough for traffic, let alone a murder, a burial, and a return. Phone records once treated as gospel were suddenly questionable. Expert testimony misunderstood. Certainty fragile. Listeners felt it. A cold awareness creeping into the bones. What if this wasn't just a mistake? What if it was a story that sounded right, but wasn't? Then came the letter. A forgotten piece of paper. A classmate claimed she saw Emily alive at a time when the prosecution said she was already dead. One letter. But in a case built on thin air, even a whisper can sound like thunder. Another suspect emerged. Another motive. Another path the investigation never walked. But paths unwalked cannot lead to justice. And Michael stayed where he was. Because the legal system does not chase truth. It chases procedure. Years later, a judge vacated Michael's conviction. For a moment, the air changed. Hope moved again. But just as quickly, another court reversed it. A technicality, a signature, a piece of paper. Freedom folded back in a distance. Justice became a door that opened just wide enough to let hope breathe, then closed again. Here is the darkest truth. If Michael Reed is guilty, then a murderer nearly slipped through cracks carved by doubt. If he is innocent, then the system destroyed a man's life without ever fully knowing why. Either way, Emily is still gone, and that is the wound that never closes. Emily Carter never got to grow older. Michael Reed may never grow free. And the truth, wherever it hides, is still watching us from the shadows. Because some crimes do not end in courtrooms. They end in silence. And silence is where the real horror lives.